opposed nay. Motion carries. Open Meetings Act is on the floor back there. Roll call. Jim? Chance?
Present.
Tim?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Myself, yes, and Deb is excused. Approve the agenda. Anybody have any questions on the agenda? All right. Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
Second.
Got first and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed nay. Motion carries. Presentation of proposed budget for the 2021-2022 school year.
Okay, I guess I'd direct your attention to the screen then, and we'll go through some mainly just trend data, which is what I think most people are generally interested in, is what are our trends, our spending trends, our balance trends, and more precisely, generally, your levy trends. And so I'll share those with you, and this will look familiar to budget presentations of the past. So valuation levy trends, this one, a lot of numbers, but I guess you can just start to get a sense of where these primary numbers and figures that go into any school budget, where they are. So bottom right, obviously, is this year. So we did experience the largest increase in property valuation since the 2015-16 year, where we saw an 11% increase. Went up 1.6, but there had been a somewhat steady decline, not too steep by any means. So the total valuation went up 1.6, Pierce went up 2.5, Antelope went up 0.3, Knox went down 0.3. So those valuations together, we obviously, the lion's share of our valuation comes from Pierce County, and we're under 13 million in Knox, so we don't hardly have any there, and about 250 in Antelope. So the proposed levy and the budget that's before you, as prepared by me at the direction of the Budget Committee, shows a flat increase in the levy, precisely the same. Tax asking though will go up because your valuation went up. So the same levy is going to generate a few more dollars. Okay, and so there, now I'll just have several bar graphs, so because it's easy to see, it's a visual, an easy visual then. And as you all recall, certainly 10 years ago, as valuations started to spike across the state of Nebraska, and you're fully aware that that's prompting a whole lot of discussion about changing the structure of funding public education in Nebraska. So those conversations have been going on for several years. If it was easy, obviously they would have changed that by now. So income tax, sales tax, and property tax is the three-legged stool that funds public education. Those are not even close to the same length of legs on those stools, as you know, certainly, as property owners. So that is an issue for the unicameral to try to resolve. They know Nebraska is 49th out of 50 in the nation for state funding of public education. And so obviously, most of it comes from, the local property owners. And this is the system that they've given public schools to fund, their needs. So whatever it is that they choose to do, or how they will tweak that in the future, obviously they're going to have to find some way to supplement if property valuation is adjusted. Where will those funds come from, and who will that burden then essentially shift to? But you can see that for the past 7 years, the valuations have been pretty stable. Total tax request. This year you can see a small uptick, and that's essentially just due to the increase, the 1.6% increase in property valuations, because the levy has remained, the levy as presented to the board to consider tonight is the exact same as last year.
Actually, if we wouldn't have put that building fund levy
Yes.
in there, that thing would
Yes.
basically be level all the way across.
Yes, and we'll get to that graph here in just a second, but this is the year where we went from 3 cents to 9 cents on the building fund, and have obviously maintained that over the past several years. And I did include in your packet that list of facilities that have been completed over the past decade. And so I think that's probably something good maybe for our public to be aware of, because I had a question today, what are we doing with this building fund money? And I referred to that document, and a lot of things our stakeholders can see, the most expensive things they can't see, and those are HVAC improvements. The most expensive project in the history of our school district was an HVAC improvement of the elementary school. And so, the building fund for 3 years, to a great degree, funded that project. State aid, we're a non-equalized district, which means we receive little to no state aid, as you can see, and fewer and fewer school districts across Nebraska receive any significant aid from the state. Building fund tax request, so as Mr. Sauser alluded to, you can see where that spiked a few years ago. We were at $0.015 not too many years ago, about 10 years ago actually, and then went up to 3 cents and then back down, and then a significant investment in facilities by the board a few years ago. The budget before you to consider tonight does have a 2-cent decrease in building fund request compared to the previous 3 years. General fund tax request. This is, as you can see, the past 3 years we'd had a slight decrease in general fund expenditures. At the same time, our expenses had slightly risen, primarily due to personnel expenses. Nearly 80% of our general fund goes to personnel. And that's not unusual at all. School districts are anywhere from 70 to 80% and more. You have some extreme school districts where they're just, they just for whatever reason. And that is the best place to spend your money, certainly, on good people. And we do that. But we've had a few things that have offset, where we've had some teachers retire that were making $60,000 plus, and we've hired first-year teachers that are making $40,000 plus. We've had several teachers, though, take the school board's option for early retirement. That does come with some expense, $7,000 a year times 5 years. We have how many currently, Kelly? 5? We currently pay out in January $35,000, and we'll do a couple of them will come off in a few years.
3 years, and then we've got a couple more.
Yeah, so we do have that expense. Now that does save us some money. Generally, we did have one instance 2 years ago where a teacher retired with the early retirement benefit, and the teacher that we hired to replace her was actually a more expensive teacher. So it doesn't always work the way it's intended. Going to a 2-principal model was a significant increase investment in personnel. So we've really narrowed that gap between our revenue and our expenses with regard to personnel. So I asked the board, the budget committee, to consider an increase in the general fund tax request to be offsetted by the building fund tax request, a decrease on that to keep the total levy flat. But we do need more funds generated for the general fund, primarily for personnel expenses.
So really, we're not saving the taxpayers any money at all by doing that the way we did it?
This year, the levies remain the same, but the total tax request does increase because the valuation went up 1.6.
Taxes will actually go up a little bit because valuation went up. We kept our part the same, but valuation
Well, we
went up.
dropped,
so
I see, we dropped like building fund, but we put it right back onto the general
Right.
fund, so really. we're
That's
not
why we
doing
dropped the
anything.
building fund.
But we didn't raise taxes by leaving the building fund and then just raising 2 cents on the general fund. That would have raised the taxes.
Why couldn't we have lowered the taxes on the building fund and stayed the same on the general fund?
General fund, correct, Dr. Alt, you said there's no way we could be below hardly 60 cents, right?
Yep.
You have 60 cents to make things flow.
We won't make payroll if we do that.
Yeah.
So all staff gets a raise every year. So our expenses go up every year, and that's the biggest expense we have. So eventually it's gonna catch up with you. I mean, weeded out almost everything we can weed out.
Okay.
So there's your total levy. So the blue and the red together will equal the green. So it's just another way to look at all three levies. Of course, your total again is just the collection of the general and the building combined. Based on a present property valuation, each penny of levy generates approximately $72,000 because we have $720 million valuation. 1% goes to county treasurer, and generally 90 to 94% of all taxes get paid. So in reality, we will likely receive closer to $64,000 per penny. Actually, I think last time I looked at it, our folks pay their property taxes pretty well. So we're actually, I mean, this is the figure that the state asks you to kind of use, somewhere right over 90% of folks that pay 100% of their property taxes. But we're closer to this figure than that. So we do pretty well in collecting the property taxes that we expect, given the levy. Percent of budget spent, and this fluctuates, somewhat from year to year, as you can see. We do relatively well at not overspending. I haven't found any indication going back, for a decade or more that we've spent 100% of our budget. So we do pretty well staying within those means. General fund budgeted. So this shows you that trend over the past decade, and that increase obviously is indicative of the asking for more general fund monies, primarily for personnel, and also a carryover amount that we started the year with. That goes into that.
For all these years, I still don't understand, when you stay under budget, you got money left over. That money doesn't stay in our account.
We have a certain percentage of unused budget authority that we get to carry over from one year to the next.
We do.
Yeah, so it's, this last year, I know the figure was about 135,000. So it's not a huge percent of our total budget, but I know that was our raw figure that we carried over this past year of unused budget authority, because the state obviously limits the amount of monies that you can collect and that you can spend. So when you ask, when your levy shows that you're going to generate this amount of money, it's always going to be less than that. And so, given what your routine expenses are throughout the year, you're going to have X amount of dollars. That's going to be that difference, and then there's a portion of that you get to carry over into the next year.
You said it was 8.4%, which seemed like a pretty big increase. What is that primarily from? Is that
Personnel.
hiring? That's personnel, but could you expand on that? Is it one teacher? Is it two teachers, or what was the primary driver of that?
When we went to a two-principal model,
Well, just
3 years
for this year,
ago.
wasn't it?
We went to a two-principal model 3 years ago.
Oh, I meant just for this year, the 8.4 for this year.
Yeah, so we actually have to kind of make up a little bit because we've been losing ground for the past couple of years. We've kept our general fund request static, and in fact, we even decreased a couple of years while our personnel expenses, have gone up. So it's really started to catch up with us this year. We actually had to borrow from one fund to another to make payroll for a couple of months. And so we need to get back ahead of the game, and because that's our most important investment every month. So we need to generate some more general fund dollars.
Okay.
So
you're saying the principal was part of that?
that would be a significant part. But we have several teachers that have moved on, on the pay scale. So we have several teachers that we pay, Masters Plus. And I think we've probably hired an extra pair or two in the past several years, to the tune of about $50,000 total on that. So personnel expenses are just always going to go up. Our teachers, we pay in the top but they might be in the top quarter of our array. So those figures will become more public this fall as we get into negotiations. How well do we pay and compensate our teachers? Our health benefits are excellent. Every teacher that has a full family health benefit is nearly $22,000 benefit. So again, all worth it. It's the most important and best money that we spend on personnel, but it does escalate, quite rapidly.
You didn't do an average of all those years, did you? Percent increase off the top of your head?
Right here.
Yeah, that was about 2%.
No, I could sure get that to you, but.
2%.
Yes,
per
so-
year isn't very much.
Yeah, if you take the 10-year average, looking at it carefully, it's going to be, looks like maybe anywhere from 2 to 2.5% per year. And our personnel expenses have gone up more than 2.5% per year. So there's your general fund tax asking, so similar, that's going to show, similar to the previous slide. So you can see we actually, did go down a couple years in a row, 4 or 5 years ago. And we started to go down right about here while our personnel expenses were going up. So, and that was primarily due to the investment in the building fund, just trying to hold the general fund steady while we made greater investments in the special building fund.
So I'm just curious, with all this ESSER money we had this year, or last year, does that not play into any of this stuff, like to where we can lower or something?
Well,
Because that should help
yep.
catch some stuff up, I would think.
Yep, I mean, some of our ESSER money has been invested in other areas that aren't specifically personnel. Some of it has been invested in, as you know, technology and other things. So, yes, in fact, Chance, that was a push by one of the state senators that budgets should be decreased by the same percentage of the ESSER funds that you receive. Okay, it didn't gain enough traction to become law, but yeah, those ESSER funds were also intended to not be used to supplant your general fund expenditures. So schools had additional expenditures due to COVID, so ESSER funds were to help offset those so that you wouldn't be additionally burdened by something out of your control. So they were never intended to be used to lower your levy, although there were others that certainly disagreed with that, including a handful of state senators.
But we do have staff salaries though that are being paid by SRO.
We do, and we're gonna receive significant funds to reimburse us for example, one of our teachers, because one of our teacher expenses is being paid entirely through ESSER funds. So we'll see some of that, and when those funds hit our bank account, Kelly will share that with us at the board meeting that we got X amount of monies back. All at ESSER 1 we've recouped, none of ESSER 2 or 3 yet. So those funds are still coming to about $700,000.
So we have to cash flow those expenses.
Yeah,
at
we've got
first,
to cash
and
flow
then we
that.
have to, then we get reimbursed.
Got a cash flow ahead of time.
Yep, so, I mean,
So school districts will. A lot of them are in similar situations to where, yes, they have to spend it before they can get it back. So, so over the course of this next fiscal year, it'll be maybe somewhat interesting to see if we notice that. But we do have it going out to a variety of different things. Some of it personnel, not a majority of it, not even close to a majority of that $700,000 is going to personnel. I don't anticipate anyway. You've got some decisions to make about that, coming up. Okay, so those are major figures in your general fund. So revenues, locally, the property tax is obviously your biggest one, and that's what's going to, that 4.23 is what is going to determine your levy. Your county funds, your state funds, federal funds carry over. The 2.717 is what we started the year with in the bank on September 1. So all those totaled up $7.8 million. Other major funds, so you can see the balance of.
Was that $1 million that we have in CDs part of that too?
Yes.
Okay.
So your other major funds that fluctuate, quite a bit, throughout the year, with the exception of, depreciation. This is kind of a savings account. We use some of this to kickstart the expense of the elementary, about $300,000 or $400,000 if I remember right, Mr. Sauser. So your activity fund fluctuates throughout the year significantly. Nutrition's been going up because we've been receiving significant payments from the federal government to feed students. And then your building fund, that's the balance now, but we just got a check today, a significant investment today in that, so you'll see that in next month's reports. So this is the budget that the budget committee asked me to prepare for you, that you have in front of you. And then your tax request. So you could, Mr. Sauser, I guess questions about this slide should wait until that hearing. So we're essentially on that slide.
All right, is there any questions or comments from the board? It's tickled pink.
That's what it is.
Okay, if there's no comments there, we'll open it up to comments from district patrons if there's anybody who wishes to speak. No? All right. Oh, go ahead. State your name and
My name is Andrew Bennett. I'm here on behalf of my wife, Christy Bennett. But we together decided to write a letter, I guess.
could you speak up a little bit, please, or move forward?
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. My wife decided to write this letter, but it goes off, starting with, she has noticed that there's a COVID response that was in the agenda, since it seems like it could very well be a very broad subject.
Excuse me, is this about the budget or is this about COVID?
That's the whole about the COVID deal.
Okay, let's
No,
wait
we're not
until
on that yet.
our 7 o'clock meeting for that. There'll be a
We'll
chance
be
to
right
talk
there,
then.
Andrew. We'll be right there.
Oh, you're running behind, got it.
Yeah.
Just a touch.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
It's all right, that's all right.
Yep.
Anybody else like to speak on this? Okay, if there's no other questions, we're gonna adjourn this meeting. All right, just in time, we are caught up. Call meeting to order, motion to declare an open meeting, second?
Second. Is this the regular one, or is this?
No,
the
this will
tax?
be the
Tax
next one.
request.
Right.
It's kinda confusing. I feel like we got your back.
Yeah, we get an overdose of this.
And this is for the break.
It's like magicians, you know, you gotta be looking over here while they're doing something over here.
Good to see it. Right.
Did you get both those, Kelly?
No, I didn't.
Jim made the motion, Chance seconded.
Thank you.
Tim or Chance,
Either one, yeah. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Open Meeting Act is posted on the door back there. Roll call. Wyatt?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Chance?
Yes.
Jim?
Present.
Myself here, and Deb is excused. That's the word, excused. Approve the agenda. Anybody have any questions on the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Now, first and second, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, now I'll have a presentation of the proposed tax request for the 2021-2022 school year. Yeah, but you don't have any more comments?
I
That's
don't,
it?
I don't.
Okay.
Awesome.
Is there any comments from the board or questions? Basically, what we're doing is approving these two sheets right here.
Yes, just a hearing, they'll be approved during the
Or
formal.
not,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's your last, well, I suppose we can debate them again in the next meeting.
don't really need to.
if we need to. That's what this one's for.
It'll be a formality when you get to those action items.
So if nobody has any questions on that, we'll move to the general public. Do you have any questions on the budget proposal? Seeing none, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting. All right, I'm gonna call the regular board meeting to order. Do we have a motion to open the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We have a first and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed nay. Motion carries. We'll stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, the Open Meetings Act is again posted on the door back there. Roll call, Chance,
Yep.
Jim,
Approved.
myself, yes, Wyatt,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
and Deb is excused. Okay, approve the agenda. Any questions about the agenda? No, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
so first and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carries. Consent agenda, start out with the minutes. No questions on the minutes, we'll go to the financials. You know, we started getting all these breakouts on all these activities. We never used to get these, and then we had a board
Yeah, you're
member
gonna get a
to-
spreadsheet eventually that will just kind of summarize it for you, but we're still working with the auditors to get the entries made so that they tie to the spreadsheet, that this ties to the spreadsheet.
We never used to get all this.
No,
and
I
we had a
know, I
couple
put it
board
in this
members
month
that
just
wanted them.
because it was split up by different group, and I thought you guys might like to see that.
Okay.
If you don't wanna see it, I can take it out. Cause that divides it into buckets, so you can see it by yearbook bounds or wood shop.
Right.
So I thought maybe you just might wanna take a look at it. She's been hesitant to put that in every month because it doesn't have her spreadsheet. It's not a big amount. It's basically because she switched software programs. What was in her software had to be journal entered into what we have, and it's just off a little bit, so.
This seems like a lot of paper, and I don't know how much time you guys spend on it.
Yeah, if we can get it down to like a little summary.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, so.
But yeah, I mean, it's nice to be able to see it.
Yeah, and you haven't, and I
It's just
haven't brought it all
paper.
year, so I thought maybe you might wanna,
Yeah.
start a new year, you might wanna see it, so. Cause when you see the total number every month, you have no idea what
Right.
buckets it's broken into, and I thought you might wanna see that.
If there's nothing financial, we'll go to the claims.
You see a significant figure in the claims of 20,000 plus. That's in anticipation that the board approves the budget tonight. We need to transport a wheelchair-bound student to Norfolk. Since school started, we've been relying on his dad to take him to school. That's not a long-term solution. So I have been shopping, found one in Omaha by a company called Wheelchair Vans by Kohl's Pharmacy. Vehicle that 2012, 20,000 miles, salvage title from Iowa. It was in an accident that damaged the wheelchair ramp. By Iowa law, it has to automatically then retain a salvage title. Fixed it. No problems with the engine or anything else thereof, so that is one that I've arranged for us to purchase pending approval by the board tonight.
How can we get insurance on that, but we can't get insurance on a bus with a salvage title?
I don't know, I did ask Mr. Johnson that question, said we would need to insure it for more than what we're gonna purchase it for, because it is worth significantly more than $20,500. He said, okay. I don't know that I was ever told we couldn't get insurance on a salvage title for a bus, but I know we had that conversation about, that just doesn't seem right, that it could, pass, state inspection. Bus would be different than a van, but obviously it transports pupils, so you'd think there would be a similar set of safety guidelines, but
So then do we need to hire somebody to drive it?
we plan to hire him.
Oh, the dad?
Yep. So we've been paying him mileage reimbursement,
Gotcha.
so we'll pay him as a sped driver, which will average out almost precisely to the amount that he was making mileage reimbursement on his own vehicle. And he's also gonna drive bus for us. So we've got another bus driver, but he'll drive a sped route every day to Norfolk.
We don't get reimbursed or anything for that expense, do we? I mean, for having to buy the van?
We will. We will get some federal reimbursement in our sped reimbursement next year.
So just while we're talking about insurance, all the work we've done to this two buildings, does our insurance, do we have to raise our
Yep.
insurance coverage, does it
Yep.
automatically go up?
It's gone up. They did a full audit last spring. So yes, our property casualty, has gone up significantly because we've invested those funds in our property, so it's worth more in a catastrophic event. It would be significant more to replace.
What was the tech supplies, the 68, or 6685 from Grizzly Industrial?
Those are shop machines.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And we do intend to take a tour as soon as they're all in. We're still waiting on one. So Mr. Juden will be here with some students to demonstrate those, that was a significant investment in industrial tech, so hopefully that happens next month.
Maybe they could make us some name signs to put in front of us.
They can probably do that. Just take a little Dremel. I think the machines that you bought will do significantly more than that, but
They did make the stencils for the yard markers on the football field.
Oh,
You
did they?
noticed that?
Yeah.
They painted those for the first home game.
Yeah.
That was the first project that they did.
That fence moving, is that down the chain link fence at the football field?
that is for the
What's that?
playground, the preschool playground. We just about doubled the size of our preschool playground. So they were fenced in just to the amount of their playground structure. So we wanted them to have little grass play area, so we just, and it's cost more than you would think, but we doubled the size of our preschool playground. Has to be all enclosed.
Would you have to buy some more fence or?
Yes.
I think we would.
Yeah, and a gate.
That's included in that
Yeah.
as well.
So that area that was used for the high jump, which we don't need anymore, has that been included now into the play area, or can we use it?
Oh, it always has been. They usually don't play on it though because it's very rough asphalt.
Oh.
I'd like our guys working on the track to have some extra and just go lay that over. So the primary time that they use that old asphalt spot is when it's wet, and they don't want them in the grass because it's too wet, so then they go to the blacktop and skin their knees.
Okay, there's no more questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move, or I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
then first and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Do we have any public comments tonight? Oh, yeah, I gotta read my deal. We're now at the portion of the agenda set aside for public comment. Each person wishing to address the board will be recognized by the board president. Also, each person wishing to address the board will be allowed only one opportunity to do so this evening. We request that you limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, and we will advise you on that 5-minute time period as elapsed. Please remember that this is a public meeting for the conduct of the business of the Plainview Public School District. Offensive language, personal attacks, and hostile conduct will not be tolerated. You should be further advised that there is no legal protection for any comments that are made. You're up.
As I stated before, my name is Andrew Bennett. I got a letter right here from my wife. We couldn't find a babysitter, that's why she's not here to do it herself. But it states, I am here tonight because I have noticed a COVID response in the agenda since the last seemed like it could be a very broad subject. I had come to share my thoughts quickly. Before sharing my thoughts on this matter, I would like to mention that even though I was unable to attend the special board meeting last month, I did read the minutes and greatly appreciate the school board meeting, or the school board writing and sending a letter opposing the Nebraska health standards. I am very happy with Plainview's COVID response at this point. COVID-19 is a virus, no matter what people hope. There is really no way to quickly ratify it. It will all take time. So in the meantime, we all need to just continue on with our normal lives. At this point, if there are teachers, staff, students, parents of students that are 12 or older that agree to get the vaccine, that is perfectly fine. There are also social distancing, wash your hands 20 times a day, wearing masks, and monitoring temps at school and home for the children that are under 12. We'd also like to note that those that wish to get vaccinated that are not vaccinated may follow these social distancing steps. I sincerely hope that the board is not considering going backwards and mandating masks, changing door entrances, taking temps at the door, or putting up plexiglass dividers. If this is the kind of stuff that the school board is considering, I would like to state that in my opinion and for student fairness, if any of these requirements are mandated to attend public schools or Plainview Public Schools, students then should also be made requirements to play or be part of any sports on Plainview Public, on or off the field. If these students are required to wear masks, social distancing, take temps, wash their hands 20 times a day, or use plastic dividers to be students at the school, the same requirements should be mandated on and off the sports field as well. With this being said, I, Christy and Andrew Bennett, am putting Plainview Public School Board members and administration on notice that if any of these requirements are mandated for my children in the classroom and not for the sports team in the exact same manner that is mandated in the classroom, we will go down every legal avenue we have open to us, including but not limited to discrimination, bullying, and we will hold this school board accountable as well as administration. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who'd like to speak?
Yeah, I'd like to talk. Jeremy, can you hear me back there?
Yep.
Well, I'd like my input in on, I'm still gonna throw out my punch for the after-school program. Your ESSER funds, I talked to Dr. All earlier about the budget, and he said the budget committee didn't decide that was a good idea. A couple things, I think you should have a workshop for your community to come in and voice their opinion to see what it is. But even if not, that's fine. I think you should implement it in your ESSER funds, so for even if, come August of next year, you will have funds if, because Mrs. Hodson and Dr. Earl said they are looking on a grant. You couldn't really start the August one because your budget doesn't start till October one. And I would assume you'd want to start at the beginning of the year, but either way, I feel like it's still a great idea. I still think it's the best use of our money. And I just hope you guys look at it and look at an investment for your students instead of into something like a giant bowl. Because there's a lot of dirt work out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Anyone else? All right, with that, we'll move on to the discussion items. Budget Committee, ESSER 3. Well, we've met with, maybe that company again. I'll take this.
Facility advocate.
Yeah, we met with faculty advocates again, and they came in and, we talked about this last meeting, that they
Yeah.
came in and did all this, checked
Yeah.
everything, and gave us their report on what they recommended, and gave us an estimate on the costs of it. Now, these things are, can be all done, none of it be done, part of it be done, but they kind of gave us their order of the way they would do it to save us, be the most efficient, reuse things that we are using now in a different place if we did the whole project. I'd start out with the electrical. What did they say that was gonna cost? Remember?
Did they actually break
He
it out?
didn't have that itemized,
I thought he
but
said 250,000.
it's a pricey right out of the gate.
400K.
Yeah, 400,000 estimate of electrical.
Okay.
They were talking, their plan was air condition both gyms, both locker rooms, weight room, hallway over there. So one of the big problems we have right now is when we run our exhaust in the locker rooms, we're stealing air from the gym because we don't have enough air intake in the locker rooms and weight room.
Well, we've got a big problem there. The dampers anyway up there, they're supposed to be providing fresh air. They're welded shut. They've been seized shut, is probably the better term anyway, because of lack of conditioning, lack of
43-year-old
maintenance.
units.
Anyway, whatever, anyway. But they probably haven't worked in who knows how long. So that's the reason why, for the stuffy air, the humidity, anyway, in the gyms.
Said it's a pneumatic controlled system.
Right.
And their pneumatics are wore out,
And they're
aren't
just-
adjusting correctly.
Right.
So we're not pulling near enough fresh air in the gym. Showed us pictures of that.
They actually found, when they went up there and looked, there was one motor running with no belt on it, not doing anything, and another one, the belt was really loose and it was turning about half the time. So I mean, just things that we're supposedly paying somebody to take care of and watch, but obviously they aren't watching it very close, so. But they would reuse, what, 2 or 3 of the units that we have to
Two.
move them to a
286
new location, and then we'd end up buying, what is it, 4 or 5?
5 new units,
new ones.
is what I have written down, is that you have down to.
I think that's right. I don't have to see what you're right.
Yeah, let's see here, it was 5 new units, 2 new rooftop units with gas and heat and AC, like the Pirate Gym. 3 new rooftop units for the classrooms, principal's offices, with gas, heat, AC. He's gonna remove the steam coils. Anyway, I speaking a little bit out of school here, it's not exactly my wheelhouse, you know, but anyway, install new controls, we talked about the electrical service, anyway, he wants to repurpose then the 25-ton carrier. AC unit, anyway, to the Tartan gym, stage and weight room. And then he wants to repurpose the 17.5-ton carrier that we just bought, for the locker rooms, which, Dr. Alt, you said that's starting to have an odor again. That's-
Well, they weren't turned on, switch wasn't, so.
Okay, well then that's.
They,
Alright.
they were obviously turned off in May.
Okay, alright.
They hadn't been turned on yet, again, so they're working fine.
Okay, that's good.
But they are using, stale air from the gym to ventilate the locker rooms.
So who's in charge of that switch? Who the play?
They're in the coach's offices.
They're in the coach's
They just,
offices.
Didn't know.
they're just not that familiar with them yet. I mean, the new coaches didn't know they were there, hiding behind a coach's locker. So I just went, turned them on and almost instantaneously.
Now you know.
I didn't know they were there. Then I think we talked about it last month, but they were gonna we're gonna discontinue one boiler and just use the other boiler to heat the junior high building. And then shut everything off, and they would heat with gas and electric in the rest of the building.
These new units would both heat and cool. They wouldn't just cool. So.
I thought that way it would take some load off. If we did have a boiler go down, then we have a backup to pick it
And
up.
did he speak to the fact that a lot of the pipes and stuff going in for the newer part, anyway, the boiler, they're getting fitted out, right?
Mhm.
They're wearing fast, the pipes are.
That's
And,
where we've had those leaks in
yeah.
the roof.
That and they sweat a lot, and that's when we get that condensation and they drip, and we've already
So-
got water coming through the new tiles, so.
And we asked, well, do we have to do, if we could we do it in pieces? And then he says, you know, well, we could, but, then your pipes, they're gonna have to figure out a way to run that condensation, you know, still over to the gym, you're still gonna run into some of the same problems. With this whole thing, it was it's easier to do the whole project than to piece it out, but the electrical was, I mean, that sort of things need to start, cause that is outdated and obsolete. And they were gonna put a new, NCPPD was gonna put in a new transformer out here too, which they would provide as part of the deal too.
Any discussion on humidity, contribution in the wintertime?
as
So
far
you
as-
build in humidifier?
Oh, to humidify it?
I don't remember anything about that.
I
That's
I don't know
probably
if
a
this
good
system would be
question.
able to do that
I don't know.
Usually we
Good
have
question.
water running down the walls in the gym in the wintertime, because it's so cold. He thought it might help a little bit in the gym as far as keeping it warmer in the winter, because we aren't sucking that air through there to get to the locker rooms. So we're pulling in air, when people walk in, open the doors, we're pulling that cold air in right into the gym. So he thought, you know, there might be some help in that situation. But obviously it won't cure that cold wall. But no, I don't know, I never talked about humidity or humidifier.
Talk about removing humidity, we're
Yeah.
not about adding that again. No.
In the tartan, it would kind of eliminate those fans we have up there too. We wouldn't need those for ventilation anymore. So. But there's a hefty price tag with it. They were looking at $1.7 million to do the whole project, so. It's a pretty big deal. So. You know, personally, I don't know whether we need to air condition the gyms or not. I'm kinda on the fence on that deal, but, I do feel if you're gonna do any of it, we should probably do it all, cause if you start out and do it and not do it right, you're still gonna have problems. You're not gonna be happy with what you did. But then if you go back and decide to do it all later, it's gonna cost you more money, yeah.
Well, we have to upgrade the electrical service, I mean, with what they found, anyway, we aren't up to code at all. Correct, Dr. Alt?
Yeah.
I mean, we're way behind, we couldn't pass an inspection
Yeah.
right now at all. The steam heat has to be remedied, correct? We're gonna have pipes.
Can't
in the
rely
left.
on it
We
as
can't-
much as we are
Can't
now.
rely on it anymore. And those two are big ones right there, you know, and trying to piecemeal this together anyway, probably like you said, what is it, Byron, is that correct? He said over time, it's gonna cost you more money than, but,
So you've got an action item to request an RFP, which is just another step to get more answers.
yep, I think.
And more specificity on the scope of the project and the cost of the project. An RFP would almost certainly gain the attention of several ESCOs, energy service corporations, not just facility advocates. So we would probably hear from Trey and Rasmussen, Energy 360, facility advocates and others. And so you'd have an opportunity to study a significant amount of information, primarily, I guess, about $1.
And this is just one company's opinion. I mean, you bring in 2 or 3 more companies, you could get maybe 2 or 3 more
I think you
opinions.
definitely need to have 2 or 3 more opinions
Yeah.
on this.
Well, you gotta take bids too.
Exactly.
That's what
And, but my question, okay, like you say, we did it all. Do they have any like time frame of how long that would last before
Yeah.
it's outdated, or?
Before it's outdated.
Like if they,
stuff.
if they like redid the whole thing, if they did the whole the 1.7 million or whatever, spent it all, like how many years is it before that all has to be updated? Did they give any kind of?
Current one's 43 years old.
Yeah, but they don't build crap like they used to.
I know,
I
that's
mean,
a good question, that'd be a good question for the guys that come in here.
25 years out of it,
So,
I'm sure we'll get a chance to ask them.
yep,
'Cause
That's
I'm
the
just
reason
saying,
why
'cause if we
make-
did
make
this,
a
we'd have
motion
to
for
have
the
our
RFP
own or
and-
something that
yep.
year, whatever.
They'll do a lease purchase type of deal like we would have done with the elementary project. I guess we were thinking, we have some ESSER funds that we could put towards this, and it would improve the air quality in the school dramatically for the students. It's something that's been on the list for a long time, and we just thought this might be the time to use some of those funds to make an improvement here in the school.
We got about 400,000 left that we could put towards it.
What was the name of the company that came in and gave the bid?
Facility advocates, not really a bid, they have
Just
just.
estimation or something?
Yes, they did a facility audit.
Okay. What was the name?
It wasn't but there's no formal bid.
The name though?
Facility advocates.
Facility Advocates? Is that the gentleman that you've had come in before, or is that somebody else I'm thinking of?
He's been in a couple of times, but also they used to work for Train. Some of the engineers at Facility Advocates used to work for Train, just split off, started their own company or joined a different company. So there's a lot more ESCOs than there used to be, because here's where a majority of ESSER funds are going to. They're going to energy service companies. So these folks are doing pretty well. They're receiving the bulk of ESSER funds around the nation. So there are some new ones, although this one began, Facility Advocates started before the pandemic.
Another thing we can look at too, and I don't know whether we wanna touch it or not, but we got $1 million sitting in CDs that's earning us 0.5%. We can borrow against that if we want to, instead of paying interest to some company to borrow money from them and repay it at the end of the, we'll get the note paid off, we can replace it. If we decide we wanna take half out of there, or, 600,000, whatever, but to me, it's kinda smart, use your own money than to borrow money when you got money sitting there doing nothing for you. So, but I also don't wanna be the one that spends all the money, and then if we have something major happen, we don't have any money to take care of it. So, but something to think about. So, leave it as an action item, right, if we wanna go on to the.
Yep.
Okay. So is there any other questions on that? You guys have anything else? Okay. Number 10, review board policy 50812, 50813, 50814, 50815, 50816, and 50817.
A lot of these have to do with health and well-being of our student population. And as I read through them, there's probably only one where I recognized, okay, I'm glad that this one came up for review, because there's a little bit that we need to maybe think about with regard to it. 50812 is about asthma and allergic reaction protocol. This is governed completely by Department of Ed rules. So there's certainly no change recommended for that, 50812, or the regulations that go with it. 50813 is our wellness policy, 14 pages, a lot of information. School wellness became somewhat more significant within the past decade, recognizing that healthy teachers are better teachers, healthy teachers are in school. teachers that are in school more often and feel better are better teachers, and that's good for student achievement. So there's been a significant push for wellness of school staff and investments, grants available to provide and promote wellness among your staff. So 50813, I don't have any suggestions or recommendations for language change.
I have one question on that.
Yes,
On page 5, number 14,
yes.
about the 5th line down, it says student surveys and taste testing opportunities are used to inform the menu. Do we do any of that?
Taste testing would be just their daily
tasting.
lunch. We've done a couple of surveys since I've been here, just getting some feedback from students. It's helpful. It hasn't made any dramatic changes other than maybe offer this entree a little more and offer this entree a little less. 50814, our automated external defibrillator, that is something that we need to be a little more handy with regard to having staff that are trained on that. You know, it hangs on a wall. A lot of people wouldn't necessarily maybe know where it is. Ours is in our room right here we got a sign by it, but somebody might not know that if they're in our gymnasium. So when we received that years ago, I'm sure there was discussion about where to place it, and a lot of schools put it in a much more prominent place than behind a door down a hallway from your most populated place, which is your gymnasium. So we're gonna reflect on that. I'll reflect with Nurse Beth as well about training on CPR, but also training on use of the device. Because I would guess that a majority of our staff would not be familiar with really how to use it, although it's not incredibly complicated. But we should definitely have some manual training on that.
When was the last time the battery was checked?
It does get checked annually by Nurse Beth. So,
Okay.
so I'm not gonna, I can't answer your question. I can't give you a
We've
date.
got several of them,
I
they
can't-
take it
yes.
down real quick.
Yeah,
She had it out when we did training.
Yes,
on this.
okay.
she trains first responders on how to use it every year.
So that's, yeah, I mean, something we probably, I know that I'm not familiar with it, you know, so. So that's on 50814, and then the rest of them, concussion awareness. This has to do with our return to learn protocol, which is guided by Nebraska statute. And so I don't have any suggestions for change on that. Food allergies. And then return from pediatric cancer, so which has been, you know, passed in 2015.
So why do they single out pediatric cancer? I mean, isn't there a lot of-
Something happened in the state of Nebraska, probably in 2013 or 14, to inspire a state senator to get a law passed.
Do you think there'd be a lot of sicknesses or illnesses that would fall in the same category?
So I don't have any recommendations for any language change on any of those policies for you.
All right, thank you. Number 11, COVID response.
I guess I would just take direction from Mr. Sauer primarily when we put the agenda together. I don't know that this needs to be a standing agenda item for discussion. Just has been.
If we just kind of have it in there in case something comes up and we need to talk about it, we're able to.
I'd like to share something. This last week, my oldest son was with me. He's an orthopedic surgeon at CHI, and it's how to think about this. I didn't realize this when they say a hospital is at max. It's max for the staff, not for rooms. And he says they have wings in the hospital that are dark. They're so short of nurses, they can't even hardly staff the OR rooms with nurses. He says that they have almost 800 beds, and there are only 15 COVID cases when he left there to go up there with me. But he says the staff is so short, he says they're maxed out on what they can take care of for our staff. And I asked him, well, what the hell happened to all the nurses? He said the majority of them quit because they got tired of taking care of COVID patients. The other majority of the bunch quit because they refused to take the shot. And he says then there's a few of them that went to travel nurses because it pays 2 to 3 times more than what they normally get paid. he says, we pay high, but he says, they just don't wanna work because of the conditions right now. So when we address the COVID, it's not, you know, when they say it's maxed out, it's not the number of rooms in a hospital. You think, oh my God, we're full, you know, but it's not, it's based on staff. I just wanted to share that, so when you hear that, you know how to think on the thing.
We had to quarantine a few kids this last couple
Yeah.
of weeks, right?
Yeah, we had a family, we had both a family that had positive case within the house. The kids couldn't isolate from the parent, and that generally those are gonna be your younger students, and so they're gonna have to quarantine. And those are the questions that the health department would have with the family is, can the kids stay away from the positive case? If they can still go to school, supposed to wear a mask and social distance as best they can. So we had 2 of those cases here in this building. So minimal disruption so
No
far this year.
positive cases.
We did have a student.
One student.
We had a student in this building, positive. Did we have a student in your building? Or
Yeah,
those were just quarantined?
week and a half ago
Yeah.
now.
Just one.
They're back, are they back?
Mm-hmm, they came back today.
Okay, just one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Let's hope it stays that way.
Move on.
I think if we quit talking about it.
Greg, do you guys want this on here every month so we could, just in case, or?
I honestly, we've, it's been a little bit of a touchy subject with some public comment anyway over the last few months. I guess unless we need to have it on the agenda, I'll be all for taking it off.
It might, maybe the public thinks we're changing something. and
That's what has happened.
Yeah.
We have gotten some
I'm with you.
comments
That'll
and
be
some,
some person to talk about it, but if
Yeah,
people think
take
we're
it
changing
off.
stuff, we're not.
Well, that doesn't mean that we can't put it by
Change
email
it
if
in
something
instant,
happens
yeah.
a couple days ahead. I mean, when the
Sure.
agenda comes out, if we think we need to put it on, we can always make that decision at
It's-
that time.
it's,
Otherwise, we'll leave it
yeah,
off.
just such a polarizing subject. Anyway, to put it on the agenda every month, I think, has caused more problems than,
Okay,
so
all
I
right.
think we can take it off.
We'll just leave it that way then unless
Yeah.
we change our mind. All right, number 12, board development. Pages 176 and 178.
Okay, these couple pages have a little more to do with superintendent evaluation, protocols and procedures. Just on the pages preceding that, you know, there's a calendar that kind of shows a process that the board could follow, but you've adopted a process that will actually begin next month. So I thought it was, appropriate to have these few pages before you as you start to head into that 2-month process of superintendent evaluation.
We hand out the evaluations
Next month. Mhm.
Okay.
Ready? Anybody like to make any comments on these few pages? Guess the only thing that stuck out to me is on the 178 there, it says resist the influence of hearsay. To me, that's kind of where that chain of command falls in, because most of the time when we get calls, it's from hearsay. People have heard something, and a lot of times they don't know the facts or the whole story, but from what they've heard, they've made a decision, and then we get calls based on that. And if they go down the chain of command, why, they can find the whole story, probably. And then we just went through that where we didn't have the information when you got a phone call. So if we just forward that on to our administrative staff, they could handle it probably better than we can sometimes, so.
Unless they pass the buck. Like, I feel like Dr. Harrell threw Mrs. Hassan under the bus in that email, but it's just my opinion.
Did you read the whole email?
I did actually, yeah.
Did you read the part where I
I
said
read
that's
every
on
part
me?
about it, yeah, I did.
The part that said that's on me? Did you read that part?
Okay, whatever. That's fine.
I think that's assuming responsibility. That's on me, but I didn't make it clear that I need a heads
But
up
I
so
was
I can
also
give you a heads up.
uninformed, as well. I was caught just as off guard as you guys were. That was what you said in there.
Yeah, and I said, that's on me.
Okay.
So you did read that part.
I did not
Okay.
read that part.
Does anybody else have any comments?
And I obviously certainly appreciate the last line on 178. Point of contact and the superintendent, the board member must consider the matter handled and no longer their responsibility. So I know you were kind of touching on that, Mr. Sauer, so it's always the best way to, to handle it.
All right, we'll move on to action items. Discuss and take possible action on adopting the 2021-2022 school budget.
I just wanna add, I mean, are we not doing this, like, did you guys even talk about the after-school program thing? Like that Barb keeps bringing up? Just wondering. It's not on that budget.
Last we heard about it was, I think, last month, when they said that they were looking into it. That's, we did not talk about it at the budget meetings.
I mean, and we didn't have any numbers in front of us. I think that's, as far as what the cost would be for staff or facilities or any materials or food or whatever. I mean, we haven't had any details brought from anybody. We haven't had any time to research that. Am I speaking out of turn here?
No, you're
Jen?
not. I actually went to a session when I was at Administrator Days specific to an after-school program. And there is a lot of legwork behind it. And honestly, it was in my radar to look at this project after Labor Day. So it is still in the works and there is a lot of legwork that has to be done. There are different options with the program. It can be fully funded through grants style, or it can be one where we support it and fund it. So it's on my list of things to look into.
Sounds good.
And I think it was maybe mentioned by Mr. Tarr that I said the budget committee didn't think it was a good idea. I never said that.
We didn't.
Because we didn't
discuss
talk about it.
Because we didn't have any
What I
details.
said was, the budget committee didn't prioritize it in this fiscal budget. That's what I said. So I need to make sure that I'm not speaking for how you feel or how you think about it.
Mhm.
So, definitely, I don't disagree that it would be a good service to many of our patrons and certainly a lot of our students. It hasn't risen to the top of my priority list either. I don't like to blame COVID for things, but that seems to be the thing to do. That wasn't gonna be an undertaking that we were gonna do last year. And it does tend to primarily rely quite a bit on expertise in an elementary building. And so you usually don't move forward on something like that without input or quite a bit of legwork from your elementary building leaders. So at some point in time, I do expect that Mrs. Hodson and myself, and maybe a committee that the board might put together, board members themselves, will visit a couple of programs that are funded partially through the 21st Century Learners Grant, which doesn't fully fund by any stretch of the imagination, but obviously gives you that seed money to get started. But a lot of plans would need to be put in place before that.
Yeah.
So if there's fully granted, then obviously it'd be free to the students. But if it's not, do they normally have to pay a fee to attend it then, to cover those costs? Or is the school and the district paying for the
So
costs?
the session that I went to was a speaker from Crete, Nebraska, and they use this 21st Century Learning Grant, and they were actually able to make it work where everything is fully funded. The students who don't, they even eat supper there. So they've made it work where families don't pay any money. But he did talk about when he first started in a different district, there was a fee to be able to be part of the program. So it just kind of depends on, when we look at this, what options we have available to us and what road we can go down. But, this guy was a great resource. He said, when I'm ready to jump in, he would be right there to help me and guide me through this. So it's just a matter of getting the ball rolling and asking questions about how we want to pursue this.
So we don't even know whether we'll ever need any funds, even if we do get it going.
I don't think we can even talk about it until this is
So they have
awesome, and they
information.
can get their stuff, together.
So,
I mean,
And he told me, he's like, if this is something you're serious about, you will spend all year doing the legwork to try and get this going in August. So it's not something that I can make happen in 6 months by any means, because there's a lengthy process through the NDE and the state that we have to fill out paperwork and.
Job security.
Take it down.
Got nothing else to do.
do you need help from the outside general public that's interested in having this to help you do all this work?
Once we get that part rolling, yes.
Yeah, I think there'd be great value in a community committee,
Right.
Yep.
to help, guide that and at some point, maybe be some type of governance.
Decision makers. Yep, absolutely.
Will this be like a permanent program just for the elementary kind of thing, or is this
I
something that you
think
guys?
probably really too early to start
Yep, don't know.
identifying what it might look like. but-
I was just, the
Yeah.
first that I've heard about it, maybe you guys discussed it last month or something, but I'm just curious was it because of the COVID thing, trying to catch kids up, or is this like a permanent program that would be every year kind of thing?
It can be, and that's where you can use ESSER funds for it. They would be eligible for that if you are addressing unfinished learning. So I think there's a lot of different models of after-school programs. Some are maybe a little more deliberate in addressing learning loss.
Is that the main driver for
so-
looking at doing such a program though, is
For
just
who?
to catch kids up? I was just wondering,
Oh,
What-
I don't know. I think.
or just because we got ESSER funds, we should look at a program like that, is that why?
No, I wouldn't say just because we have ESSER funds, we should look at it. I think kids would benefit whether we feel we have significant unfinished learning or not, which I don't feel we do have significant unfinished learning. But the state isn't requiring us to show any level of unfinished learning to be eligible for a certain amount of funds.
Is it just
But
that-
you can use, an after-school program, just like summer school, would it address what they classify as unfinished learning. So it does bring it into more conversations for school districts.
Would the school plan on keeping that on though afterwards for students?
That would,
well, there's
I-
other schools that have one
Uh-huh.
way before COVID ever. hit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It's a
like,
place
so
for
this
kids to
has
go
nothing
from
to do with
time
like
school's
COVID.
out till their parents get off work.
Yeah.
And there's some learning with it and feeding them and those kinds of things. It's somewhat daycare, somewhat learning, somewhat meals, covers a lot of bases.
Okay, but just an elementary program primarily is what it is then, what you're talking about?
Well,
that
it could
would
be as
that would
much
be
as you want
determined.
it, yeah.
A lot of,
details.
Got a long way to
Okay.
go.
I just hadn't heard about it before, so I just wonder what caused the conversation, or
Okay, let's
what
get
the
back to
overall
the
plan was.
All right, where are we at?
action item at hand.
Thank you, Jen.
Yep.
Is there any more questions on the tax request?
You're on
So we're on the
13
budget.
yet.
13, you got
Oh,
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2021-2022 Plainview Public Schools budget as presented.
is there a second?
second.
Okay, it's been first and seconded. Wyatt,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Chance,
Yep.
Jim,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carries 5-0. Number 14, discuss and take possible action on approving the tax request for the 2021-22 school year. Any discussion on that? Not, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the 2021-22 tax requests and levy amounts as presented.
I'll second that.
And first and seconded, Jim,
Yes.
myself, yes, Wyatt,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Chance,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0. Number 15, discuss and take possible action on submitting request for proposals, RFP, for high school HVAC projects. So what this does is it just, and the same company will go out, right? They go out and inform the other
Yeah.
companies, or do
Well,
we do
they,
that?
once an RFP hits the local media, I mean, the ESCOs find them.
Okay.
ESCOs find them, and so any ESCO that would be interested, now, depending on how busy they are, I mean, they're all pursuing significant energy projects. Ours would be minuscule compared to, a great variety of them out there, but anyway, we would have almost certainly multiple bidders for the scope of the project that we'd be interested in. So it's just submitting an RFP that's designed to gather bids, so.
So what was your time frame at being by? October 1st? No.
I believe it's on there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or somewhere.
So it didn't seem like it was real long from to me for them to
Yeah.
come in and look everything over and.
I think it was just a month, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Something like that.
so they'd have to express
Till
interest,
10
let's see,
a.m.,
October sixth.
6th, 2021.
So it's less than a month.
Now, that doesn't, we can adjust that if we feel we need to.
Maybe that's their timeline, not ours.
Yeah. So I can ask about that. If you want to move forward on it, though, I can ask about that date and whether we think that's appropriate or not. And maybe I get the sense that maybe a couple more weeks beyond that, so a full month to 5 weeks.
I think, yeah, I mean, we don't wanna be overwhelmed with RFPs, but I think, you gotta give these guys some time anyway to at least go
Mhm.
through the details,
Yeah.
so.
I think we have to do our best to get the best possible deal
Yep,
too,
so-
you know.
October
couple extra
6th
weeks
is a
would be fine.
Wednesday,
Sure.
so,
Remind me again, guys, was there a cost until?
No.
There's no cost.
No cost until we
Not
get
until we
set-
approve one of them,
a bid.
accept one of them. So we haven't spent a penny yet.
Okay,
Any more discussion on that? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to submit an RFP to media outlets to obtain bids for the high school HVAC project consideration.
Second,
I'll second that.
it's been first and second, myself, yes, Jim?
Yes.
Chance? Tim?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes?
Motion carries 5-0. 16, discuss and take possible action on a resolution to offer 457B deferred compensation retirement plan for employees.
we just need formal board action to authorize Compass Financial to offer our staff salary deferment option for retirement. So it's just, we want to give our staff the opportunity to invest in their future through payroll. But there has to be a formal board resolution.
This isn't matching or anything like that to the
It's
district.
just something they've had
Can,
before. Is this new?
this is, they already have a 403B, this is a 457B, which has some slight differences, but we just, I feel we want to give our staff a variety of options to plan for their retirement, because too few, quite honestly, do. And so this would be just another avenue for them. It's at no expense to the district, requires a little time from Kelly initially to set it up, and then it just works through payroll.
Okay, sounds good. I'll make a motion to join the SDAC consortium to allow Plainview Public Schools employees to participate in a 457B plan.
Second?
Second.
First and second, Tim?
Yes.
Chance?
Yeah.
Jim?
Yes.
Myself, yes, Wyatt?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Reports, activity director's report. Somebody taking a spot, or we gotta,
You can just read through his list at your leisure.
works for me. I bet he's driving around outside waiting for us to.
I
Don't
doubt
blame
it.
him.
They're done.
Did they win?
Yeah, we won.
Okay, good.
Principals report,
Okay,
half principals.
40-20,
what was the score?
40-20.
Oh, good.
That's a JV thing?
Okay, the first thing that we have on there is our map testing. We are both finishing that up this week. And so in the elementary, we plan to send some information home with families when we have conferences the following week. Shop class and utilizing their new tools. As Dr. Arlt said, we plan to kind of display some of those once that stuff is all in. The juniors and seniors are going to go to a college fair at Northeast, on the 22nd. Homecoming is Friday. There's all kinds of activities planned for that and throughout the week. Grandparents' Day, so Grandparents' Day was yesterday, and we are gonna do our little program that we've done in the past in the elementary Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. And we kinda scheduled that in conjunction with the book fair, so maybe we can get some grandparents to take advantage of the book fair and support that. Next week is our parent-teacher conferences, so that is Wednesday and Thursday. The high school and junior high will do like they've done in the past in the Tartan gym. And then in the elementary, we are going to schedule times for all grades. So I know that it says 4 through 6, as I'm sure that was decided after the fact that we will schedule appointments for all grades. That seems to work a little better for families. financial aid meeting at Northeast on the 22nd. And then there's that other date of Kyle's, October 6th. It's been a couple years since we were able to do this, but pre-COVID, we used to have a family reading night. And we are going to bring that back this year, and we have set the date for October 28th at 6 p.m. So we will have different reading activities, Halloween themed, for all families in the elementary that evening.
What day of the week is that?
Thursday, I think.
Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday. And then the only other thing that I wanted to add is, I don't know if you've noticed these or not, but I should say Dr. Arlt received a surplus of these at the beginning of the school year, and had a little fun with them a week or two ago. And realizing the magnitude of how many there were, we were talking in the elementary about, oh, we should use those as a way to jumpstart an account for playground equipment. And so, long story short, we all talked about it and said, yes, let's do this. So we have established an account to start funds for playground equipment. If you see these littered in people's yards, that's just our way of getting the message out as we try and raise some money for that project in the future. I mean, it is a very expensive expense. And so the elementary teachers, the elementary staff see the need for it, and so we are teaming up to kind of jumpstart that effort in hopes of raising some money to purchase new playground equipment in the future. So, my family, the girls and I have started this, and actually within the last 24 hours per se, we've stopped at 7 different houses, and we have $250 started already. So our intent is to do this up till Thanksgiving if these last that long, and see how much money we can raise and get that task started.
Cool. Chance has a really big yard.
No, I really
Probably
don't.
4 or
Have you
5
seen
in
my
his
yard? I don't know it.
I have 3 of them, 100 yards, 200 yards, and 300 yards.
Well, there's like 40 of these, so we try to hit 3 or 4 houses in a stop, so.
$25 a piece, is that what it is?
That's our minimum
Is that what I got?
donation that we are,
You can donate more.
yep, we are asking,
Oh,
but,
you donate more.
yes, I've had people already do that. I had one family give us $100, so.
Great.
Or you can donate even if you don't get an apple.
Uh-huh.
I'd hate to donate without getting the apple, and then the apple
Maybe.
shows up, and
Can
then
you get
I'll
like
donate
an apple that you
again.
can eat too with it? You know, that might help.
When I don't have a school board meeting, we'll make some trips out in the country.
Hope she doesn't know where I live.
I want to ask you a question about when the doors open in the elementary.
Uh-huh.
How come they don't open till 8? Isn't that when school starts? Like, I'm just curious, like the school day starts at 8 o'clock, right?
Uh-huh.
And ends at like 3:25-ish?
Uh-huh.
So I'm just wondering why they don't let the kids in until the bell rings at 8.
The supervisor that is with them is outside with them. Unless weather is too cold, then we would pull them inside.
Okay.
But if, like, for example, if your kids don't wanna wait outside till the bell rings at 8 o'clock, they can always go to walking club, and that starts at 7:30.
Okay. So so when it gets cold though, you guys are gonna like put them inside? right?
Yes, there is a magic number that I would have to ask Patsy what that standard number is, but yes, when weather is too cold or rainy.
I guess my other question is like for a job, I guess if I'm supposed to start my job at 8, I probably better have all my crap sitting down at the desk by 7:55. You know what I mean? That's my only, because there's a lot of days that I see them going at like 8:01, 8:02, which I'm guilty. I drop my kids off late because I don't want to fight them when they're standing in line. But how come they don't ring the bell like at?
The tardy bell does ring at 8:05.
Yeah, but how come they don't ring it at like 7:55 and let them start go to their classes? That's just a question.
Because it's 8 o'clock and they're in their classroom by 8:05, instruction starts. Instructions then start at 8 o'clock. Doors open to come in. School essentially starts, we're obviously responsible for them. At 8 o'clock, doors open, they come in, we assume responsibility. And then, teachers have their procedures. But reading doesn't start at 8 o'clock.
Okay. So the school day technically starts at 8:05.
School, we take responsibility of the kids at 8 o'clock.
So the test 3 times a year for maps, is that different than it's been?
No,
It's always been 3
Mhm.
times a year?
yep,
I was gonna say, it seems like you're already testing all the time anyway, you're gonna add another one.
no, it's the same as what it's always been.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Let's skip the president's report. Right to the super, you wanna yell at me or what? Anybody got
I didn't know
anything
you
for
could
me?
just do that scratch off the agenda like that, Prez. I
You want the job?
He's just like Joe, he just does what he wants.
Superintendent report.
Okay, Jamie Gatz will be our new sped driver, as I mentioned earlier, and bus driver at some point in time. Bob's been spending some time with him and working with him to make sure, he was a bus driver for Scotts Bluff Public Schools, prior to moving to town. Summer project update, well, you can kind of see some of those things, obviously, that are still going on. Yeah, I wish we were the only project for the Clausen brothers, but they've got, you know, as they tend to do, have several things going on at once, and so they're here for a while, and then they're taking care of somebody else, and then they're back, and so on. The work on the ramp, obviously, is very intricate and detailed, and that is progressing. So, hopefully, we're within, you know, who knows, a week or a month of it done and cleaned up, and you know, we'll probably, when it's all said and done, most everybody will say, that's nice, it's about time, and some people will whine about it, but that's the way it is.
How
The
come,
track is
Huffman-
progressing.
How come Huffman was in there doing dirt work if it was Clausen?
How come Huffman was in?
I see
That one
Huffman's
Saturday
skid
when you
loader
had
was-
Huffman come in to backfill,
Yeah.
because the other guy couldn't.
Wait,
That-
Ward.
That
It
was Ward.
I know it was Ward with Huffman.
They-
Yeah, so-
You call him Ward anyway,
Yeah.
because you were
Yeah,
retired.
Yeah, their guy that they contracted to do dirt work wasn't available, just couldn't come and get it done.
So they're paying for that though?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. That's all I wanted to make sure.
So the track work is ongoing, they're doing a great job down there, they're very particular that we stay away from it. So obviously, we'll stay out of their way and let them do their work. They had some kind of protective sheeting all the way around the fence today, obviously to protect something from something that's going on. So if that's done this week, that would be fantastic, I guess, but we'll still baby it. And again, we're probably good for a minimum of 5 years before we even need to think about another structural spray. So, which was the plan, because we're not getting a Cadillac track there. We're getting a Chevy, and we'll restore that Chevy in probably 5 years.
Can you put that into your calendar or something, so?
So it won't get beyond us like this one did?
Right, so
Yeah.
Well,
somebody
you'll be
takes your
here.
place,
Yeah.
huh? I'll be in my rocking chair.
Yeah. I don't have any new information on the purchase of the bus. Bob is still shopping, and I would guess if it was dire need to replace it, we'd have something for you to consider. But he's still shopping, so
How you guys gonna play the football game Friday night with the track?
we'll be able to at that time. They know that.
So they'll have like a
yes,
spot
they-
for you to get across there?
Yep, yep. We've got the material to lay across, so, but we'll have to be pretty particular about, nobody goes on the track after the game oftentimes, well, all the time, you know, folks will wander across. Our guests that sit on the opposing side, we let our friends from Neely just wander on the inside of the fence. We're gonna need to make that clear to all our guests that come to visit, that we want them on the outside of the fence. Even after the contest, and particularly now. How we'll do that with our own fans, because our own fans, you know, congregate down there in the corner. Whether we're gonna tolerate that now, folks, just regular street shoes are not gonna damage your track. But we don't want our football boys walking on the track, obviously, with their cleats, because we'll have some matting on the far side. So
you're
we'll
talking
manage that.
all the time, not just Friday? I mean, do we need to do
I
this
think
all the
Mr.
time?
Schmidt, I think Mr. Schmidt said that the track needs 10 days, I think, to set up. Is that
Oh,
is that
and they make
correct?
them walk on with their cleats after.
So,
Well, no, I don't think you can
No,
ever
no,
walk on with your
no,
cleats.
not
No,
cleats,
they don't.
but just, we need to stay off
But
of
the
it.
parents,
Just
but the
10
parents
days.
can walk on it in
Yeah.
a month from now or whatever.
Yeah.
General traffic is okay, but, yeah, hard cleats, that would be
That was
a
a no-no
no-no,
before.
you know, all the time, so. I did reach out to our friends at Creighton and Osmond to see if they were interested in co-oping girls wrestling. There's only one class for girls wrestling, so you don't move up a classification by putting your enrollments together. Creighton, Osmond, Plainview independently are probably not gonna be able to field a girls' wrestling program. Cause as you know, the NSAA did approve girls' wrestling as a sanctioned sport, so girls no longer have to wrestle boys. And they can't wrestle boys in practice, so if you only have one girl out, there's a problem. So I did appeal to both of them, it's just not enough time to put things together. This was approved by the NSAA just maybe 2 months ago, so kinda caught schools off guard in the middle of summer, so schools like us put it kind of difficult to maybe piece something together for this winter. It's a type of co-op. So that might be something in the future to consider. Obviously, Coach Boyer says, bring them here, I'll coach them all. So I offered that to Osmond and Creighton, and so, but it's just they would wanna maybe a little more time, because they'd have to think about logistics of travel. And
Do we have a couple students that are interested in?
we don't know.
Okay.
We hear maybe some chatter until we get to
Okay.
that first week in November, and, who shows up for a meeting, we
Okay.
shall see.
All right.
But anyway, just wanted to bring you up to speed on that. So, and there's a enrollment summary, one meeting out of district, vacation and sick balance. That's all I have for you tonight.
So Adam, did you want that wrestling, girls wrestling, Coach John?
I'm a little busy. I'll think about it.
All right, is there anything else?
Adios.
We are adjourned.
Great.
Thank you all.
Thank you.